The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's the Ron Van Dam Show.
Hold on tight, things can get a bit weird, if you like that sort of thing.
Hey, welcome to the program. It is the Ron Van Dam Show. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your patience and your understanding while I went to the bathroom. We weren't recording at that time? Never mind. Welcome to the show. How you doing? If you're not familiar with this program, it's not serious. I'm not talking about school committees. I'm not talking about real estate. I'm not interviewing people. It's just pointing out the things that don't make any sense, and there's a lot to do. I have a friend who is in a choir, in a local choir, which is wonderful. Thank goodness there are other people that can sing and drown him out. That's the great thing about choirs. Not everybody has to be that good. So there's, or just a few people have to be good. So he's in the choir. And I wrote it down because he said, "Hey, you want a ticket?" And I said, "Yeah." I said yes, but I really don't. So I wrote it down on my calendar. I wrote down choir on the date that they're performing, and I noticed as I spelled out the word choir, that word is bad. It's wrong. It must be taken out of the vocabulary because it makes no sense. Choir is spelled C-H-O-I-R. It sounds nothing like what it's spelled. Sometimes I think that the English language was created to screw people up so that you can never really properly do it. Choir is a great example of this. Choir should be spelled Q-U-I-R-E, but it's not. It begins with a C, which there can be a hard C, but not when you got an H after it. That's a ch. No matter how you do it, that's a ch. Like in Chuck and Cheese. Oh, good name for a kid's place. Anyway, so it should be choir or choir. If you're going to have the CH, and you shouldn't, it shouldn't be followed by an I. It should be followed by an O, and it is, choir. Maybe C-H-I-O-R, but it's not. It's C-H-O-I-R. I have just, in the first 2 minutes of the program, talked about the most ridiculous thing I've ever talked about. Who cares? Choir, I think, is a derivative of the Latin, which was filtered through the French. The French still use the word extensively, but they use it in a different sense. It's these Latin people. I know some Latinos, but I don't think that's the Latin that they're referring to. Just don't. And by the way, I had since decided I'm not going to that choir performance because it's just bothering me too much. Here's something else that bothers me that really shouldn't bother me at all because I shouldn't really care. I'm watching the Andy Griffith Show on Pluto TV because I watch a lot of TV. And on the Andy Griffith Show, which was created and filmed in the early 1960s. I think it was 1960 through 64. And they used a lot of the expressions that people just don't use anymore because they make no sense. We use other expressions that make no sense. But the expression here's what happened in this particular episode. There's a knock at somebody's door in their house, and it's a young lady, and she walks to the door. She's not expecting anybody. They never do in these television shows. They always say, there's a knock at the door, and then their response is, I wonder who that could be. Do you not know anybody? I mean, I wonder who that could be. So she walks to the door, and of course she doesn't say who's there or anything. She just opens the door. Very much a different time and place in our history. Also, it's a television show. So there's a knock at the door. Well, I wonder who that could be. And she says it to herself, by the way. There's nobody else with her. she says it to herself. So, did you talk to yourself? Well, I wonder who that could be. So she walks over to the door. She opens the door. It could be an axe murderer. She doesn't know. She opens the door, and it's a guy that she knows. And she's apparently very thrilled to see this guy that she doesn't expect. But I guess she likes him. So she invites him in, and she says, quote unquote, "Won't you come in?" And I stopped. I thought, wait a minute. What a strange way to invite somebody into your place. Won't you come in? You don't want to come in? Won't you come in? Why would you start it with "won't you"? What does that mean? Won't you come in? Won't you come in? Well, I couldn't. The door was closed. Won't you come in now? It's a very strange phrase. So he walks inside because in those days, "won't you come in" didn't mean anything. It just means come in. So he walks inside, and he walks into her foyer, and he says, "This is a very nice place you have here." And she says, "Thank you very much." And then she says, "Won't you sit down?" It's like she's argumentative. Why aren't you sitting down? Won't you? What's the matter? Do I not have good furniture? Won't you sit down? Very, very strange. Very strange. They had a lot of strange expressions that they used that meant nothing at all. Like, that's a needle in my daughter's crotch. I mean, what does that mean? Okay. By the way, that was not an expression that was used. That's just an example. I don't remember if I talked about this last week or not, but I was watching a television commercial because a lot of things in my mind are generated off television. I was watching a television commercial, and it was for an erectile dysfunction pill that you can take. Should kids not be in the room? When is this airing? Get them out of the room for a second, please. I'll wait. Are they out of the room? Okay. It's a commercial for erectile dysfunction. Is it erectile or rectile? I don't know. It's both. It's rectile dysfunction. Erectile. I don't know. So anyway, there's and of course that's Viagra, and that was the brand name, and they came out with some generics, but now they've double generic this pill that you use for sexual purposes, obviously. But apparently, the Viagra was like about $14-20 per pill. So every time you wanted to have the chicka-bow wow, it would cost the guy that sorely needed assistance. it would cost him $20. But now with this generic version of these pills, they're only $2 a pill. Whoa! And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this sounds like prostitution to me because do you want to have sex? Yeah, but I don't have $20. That doesn't sound right. Okay, let's move on. Get the kids back in the room. Let's move on. I live in a house, and it has a window. And a lot of houses have these windows these days where you can look out and see the outside. I get excited, not in the sense of the prior discussion, but I get excited about the trash collection. And as most children are, especially male children, they're very interested in trucks and how trucks operate and all that kind of thing. When I was growing up, back in the 1400s, my good friend Chris Columbus said to me, "Ron," no, I'm not that old. When When I was a child, I would hear the garbage truck coming down the street, and I would run to the window because our house had windows too when I was growing up. And I would look out the window, and this fascinated me. This gigantic truck would pull up in front of my house, and the garbage cans, they were garbage cans made of metal, and they were put out on the street. There was no recycling then. Oh, God, no. There was no recycling, and you could drink water out of the garden hose. Those are the things that, no more. So the metal cans made a lot of noise in the morning when they were putting the cans out. This garbage truck would pull up, made a lot of noise because there were metal cans involved. And there was a driver in the truck, and then there was another guy who rode the truck on the back bumper of the truck. There were some big handles on the back of the truck, and he held on for dear life as this truck would go tooling down the street. On the back of this vehicle is a guy standing there riding it like he's busting a bronco in a rodeo. If he lost his grip, he'd fall off onto the pavement and be dead. It was wow. The guy was not only an acrobat to just stand on the back of the truck, this gigantic metal hunk of truck, but he must stink like garbage. This is what he does all day. He picks up garbage, literally. Can you imagine? His wife calls, "Anyway, you want to go out to dinner tonight?" "I can't. I smell like fish." "We'll go. We'll do seafood." I can't imagine. He jumps off the truck. He hops off the truck. Truck pulls up to the curb. He walks to the curb. He picks up these metal garbage cans. This guy was like amazing. Picking up, this thing had to weigh like 60, 70, 80 pounds. He just picks it up with his pinky. Stinking of garbage. Vapors coming off of his face. He's picking up these cans. And there wasn't just one. There wasn't two. There were 3 or 4 in those days. These cans weren't that big. And he'd pick them up. And he'd lift it above his shoulders because that's on the back of the truck where the dumping area was. And he'd pick it up and throw it into the back of the truck. And he did this with all the trash cans that were lined up there in front of our house. I couldn't believe this. This is the strongest guy in the world. And I'm not being sexist. They were just guys, but strong guys at that. And then he'd hop up on the back bumper of this gigantic truck, and he'd smack the side of the truck, which was a signal to the driver, it's time to move on to the next house, and then 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 the next house. All the while compounding on top of his stinkiness. The guy must have had to burn his clothes after every shift. Those were the American heroes. Well, there are others too, and thank you for your service. But, I mean, that was, what a job. These were tough guys too. They were tough. They didn't wipe their noses. They blew them from the inside out. Now, because of technology, it's still fascinating, but it's not the same. I hear the garbage truck, trash thing, pull up in front of the house. I got the recycles. I've got the trash. I got the things with pizza boxes, another receptacle for plastics that don't necessarily melt, another one for dead bodies. I mean, there's all kinds of... So the truck pulls up. There's nobody riding on the back of the truck. It's just one guy all by himself, sitting in the truck, pulls up next to these cans. From the side of the truck, all of a sudden, comes this gigantic metal claw. I mean, I'm talking gigantic. If this thing picked you up, it could squeeze you, could squeeze everything out of you. It looks like a forklift, like in a warehouse. It comes protruding out of that truck, and it comes right for those cans sitting at the curb. And it picks up the can, and this robotic arm, the garbage truck is a giant transformer, a GoBot, picks up the can, lifts it to the big part of the truck that swallows the garbage and dumps it in there, brings the can upright again, sets it down like a baby in a bassinet, back onto the curb. And it repeats it for the next receptacle and the next. Rinse and lather, lather and rinse, lather and shampoo and rinse. And then it moves on. It's a robot truck. My first reaction, well, half of the people who used to do this don't work with them anymore because they don't need the guy in the back of the truck anymore. That horrifically horrible job. Because what happened was technology made us real lazy and took our jobs. Now, they weren't great jobs to begin with, let's face it. But at the same time, seriously, they're replaced by people sitting at keyboards doing data processing, data, whatever. We have turned our society into a bunch of lazy bastards. And I hate to say that out loud, but I didn't say it out loud unless you got your volume turned up a lot. We've turned into lazy bastards. Everything we do is an occupational hazard, but a different kind. The greatest occupational hazard to the American working public, my wrist hurts. My wrist hurts. It's from doing this typing all day on the keyboard. My wrist. Well, I mean, that's called carpal tunnel. I don't know where the tunnel came from, but I'm telling you, that can be quite painful. You know, you want to drink a glass of water and you can't really do it. Then doctors say that lazy sitting around on your ass is the new smoking. What does that mean? Well, it's just when you sit down and you don't move, it's as bad for you as if you smoked. I don't really understand the connection, but apparently just sitting around is not good for you. So what we did in society is we created technology so you can sit around all the time. We do things that are counterproductive to the very things that we don't want to do and we know we shouldn't be doing them. Take, for example, Grubhub and that DoorDash and Uber Eats. Did you know Uber Eats, Uber Drinks, Uber Sleeps? Grubhub. Grub is do you know what a grub is? It's a worm-like annoying thing that lives in your lawn and it destroys your grass in your lawn. What a great name for a delivery service. Hey, you want some food? Sure, let's order some food. Let's get Grubs to deliver it with grubs in it. Oh. We are so lazy now, we don't have time to go get our food. We don't have time to cook it. We don't even have time to go get it. If somebody else does cook it, we have to have it brought unto us. Bring the food unto me, to my table. Jester, bring it to me now upon my bidding. Seriously, how lazy do you have to be? If you don't have enough time to do anything, you're not managing your time well, or something's wrong somewhere. The problem is that you don't have enough time. The problem is more, you don't know how to manage it. So we have food delivered to us. I will tell you a true story, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to, how much time do I have? Not a lot. I'll tell you a true story. There's this Sleepy Hollow town called Easton, Massachusetts. Ever been there? It's a nice place, but I wouldn't want to live there, you know what I'm saying? I'm kidding. Anyway, there's a Dunkin' Donuts, and I'll mention where it is. It's on a street corner. It's on Route 138. I think they call it Washington Street. Well, what street in any town in the United States isn't called Washington, right? It's on the corner of Washington and something else. I think it's Main Street. Anyways, Dunkin' Donuts. And it doesn't really matter because there's a Dunkin' Donuts on every street corner, so it doesn't really matter. But on this particular one, I wanted a breakfast sandwich, and there was a Dunkin' Donuts and a small cup of coffee. Now, I usually don't drink coffee because it makes me anxious, and I'm bad enough the way I am. And then people say to me, Ron, you don't drink coffee? No, it's the caffeine. So when I do, I drink decaf. Decaf, that's not coffee. Well, yeah, it says it is. Anyway, there's a line at the drive-through window, for the drive-through window. There's a line of, and I'm not exaggerating, it's like 8 to 10 cars. It extends into the parking lot so people can't even go to the store to park because there's a line in front of them going the other, you got to drive around them. 8 to 10 cars, okay? I look at that line and I say, no way, man. No, that line ain't moving. So I finagle around them and I park in front of the Dunkin' Donuts and I walk inside. Ladies and gentlemen, I was the only customer inside the donut shop. And as soon as I walked up to the counter, there was an employee who works the counter and said, can I help you? I said, yes, a small black decaf, please. To which she said, that's not even really coffee. I said, no, shut up. Just do it. And also a breakfast sandwich. I'd like a croissant. You have to say that properly. A croissant. Egg and bacon sandwich, please. She said, very well. Very well. About no more than a minute and 15 seconds later, that sandwich was ready because they microwave everything, and that coffee had already been poured. Gave them my money. They gave me the food. I walked out the door. I turned around and I looked at the cars lined up for the drive-through. They had only moved up one car. If I had gotten on that line with 10 cars waiting, I would now be number 9. But no, I'm on my way. I accomplished 2 things. 3 things, actually. I saved time. That's number 1. Number 2, I wasn't sitting in a line of cars looking like a schmuck. That's a big one. That's number 2. And number 3, I actually got some exercise parking my car, getting out of the car. I was parked right in front of the front door because no one else was parked there. But nonetheless, I did have to walk in the store and walk out and walk back to the car. So that's some exercise. Unlike the people waiting in the line who didn't even get up at all. They're just sitting in their little car seat. And I tell you this story as a case in point. I'm trying to prove to you that we have made ourselves lazy. I have when I was growing up, once again, we didn't have a remote control. My father thought we didn't have a TV remote control. No TV remote control. When we went to change the channel, my father would kick me in the back and say, change the channel. And I'd get up and I'd change the channel. There was a knob on the TV. The knob breaks after about, I'd say 20 turns of the knob. That knob's going to break off anyway. Now we're changing the channel with a pair of pliers where the knob used to be. That was my childhood. I mean, it was toward the end of it. I'm not that old, but still, I was told that I was around. Then remote controls have become very sophisticated. I don't have to walk up to the TV. I don't have to do anything anywhere. I don't have to pull up the garage door with my hands. I can just hit a button, the garage door will go up all by itself. I can push a button and the channel will change. I can push another button and it'll get a little bit louder, the TV, a little bit softer. It'll even turn it off. That wasn't bad enough for laziness. Now I don't even have to push the, oh no, my finger's got Gotta push a button on my finger. My finger. No, now I just lift the remote, I put it to my mouth, and I tell the remote what I want done. Change the channel, and it will. Go to public television, which nobody else does, by the way. Go to public television, and the channel will change. Make it louder, and it'll be louder. Turn off, and it'll... I am shouting, and Alexa, oh my God, I have Alexa in my house. I don't know what she looks like. I don't know who she is, but she's in my bedroom. She is programmed that when I turn out the lights once I'm in bed by simply shouting into the air, Alexa, turn off the light. Not only will she do it, but she says good night. Oh my God, stop it, stop it. It's out of control, ladies and gentlemen. It's out of control. Tell you a funny story. My daughter-in-law was in my office in my home, and she was on a Zoom meeting with 8 other people. I guess her job requires that she has to sit in a quiet room, which must be apparently at my house. Well, she has a kid, so obviously that's not going to work in her own house. So she sits in my, and so so she's doing a Zoom meeting with 10 people. And at the beginning of the Zoom, and I'm overhearing this, and at the beginning of the Zoom meeting, everybody says how their weekend was. And this one guy, apparently I overhear from this Zoom meeting, I'm on the other side of the office there, and I hear this girl say, yeah, we had a great weekend. We went camping, and we had a good time. And this other guy says, yeah, we're excited. We're going to a Bruce Springsteen concert tonight. A friend of ours, gave us tickets. And the moderator on the Zoom says, well, that's very, very exciting, Bruce Springsteen. And somebody else in the Zoom room, I guess a young kid about 18, 20 years old or something, he says, Bruce Springsteen, is he a Jewish musician? Is he a Jewish musician? First of all, I don't know why you threw Jewish in. Well, because he probably thought it was Bruce Springsteen or something. So I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. That's the generation gap of the world. We live in a lazy, we don't understand other people kind of society, and that's where I'm going to leave you today because it's time for me to go. I'll be back again next week with a brand new program. Until then, I wish you peace.